Hey y'all, grown black folks talk. Back out on the climb on an absolutely beautiful day here in San Francisco. We haven't had many, it's been raining a great deal. So I wanted to come today and talk about a subject that I'm glad I've had time to really think about on being in community still with black men in 2025 and why that proves we need Project U as black women. Let me just start here, as I know I have black male subscribers. If it don't apply, let it fly. If not, get blocked. Sorry. Cannot, which kind of illustrates the last point I'm going to make. But I'm going to be as compassionate and generous as I can be. And as a Christian, that's what I'm commanded to do. But we also have to tell the truth about a bunch of things. So let's start here. I start here as a Christian. And as a Christian, there's no way for me to do what a lot of black women have been doing. If I am to do good to all men, especially those of the household of faith, there's no asterisk there. Then, as a Sunday school teacher, some of my students are grown men now. So there's no way for me to cut off fellowship with a brother because he's black. That's the whole point of being an actual Christian. Being an actual Christian means you do not practice bigotry at any time. So automatically, seeing a black man and assuming that he's this, that, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, that's not what I'm called to do. So as a Christian, as long as I live in the black community, as long as I minister in the black community with fellow African-American Christians, then I'm going to be in community with black men. That just has to do with the profession. Now, here's what that does not mean. That same Bible in 1 Corinthians 7 says very clearly, and it says this throughout the Bible. If it says it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in men in Psalm 138, verse 8, then you can be sure that that applies to all men, including black men. And that applies to black women looking at black men. It is still better to put confidence in the Lord than any man, which is why the Lord can turn around on the other side in 1 Corinthians 7 and say, it's better for Christian women to stay single, just like it's better for black men. Hear this, ladies, it is better, according to the Bible, in times of distress to stay single. Because if you are single, you can move more easily. You can focus on serving the Lord and enjoy his protection. If you get married, then you have to worry about more things in the world. And if you think about that, it makes sense. And it says the same thing to the single man. So don't feel, brothers, that you are not allowed to be a bachelor. You have to go and get married and do all this and that. No. Christians reproduce by sharing the gospel. They don't reproduce by natural reproduction. Because by natural reproduction, the Bible is very clear. They are born of the will of man and the will of the flesh, but not by the will of God in the sense that they are automatically saved just because they came from you. That's just not it. We reproduce by being a good witness, even to our own children. So I'm in community with black men. I count them as my brothers who are Christians, and I do not have to be married under the authority of any of them except as I choose. The Bible gives me permission to live like that. That being said, looking at black men as the ones that I do fellowship, these are men who are following Christ. And if they are in a position of leadership, I'm following them as they are following Christ. And if you've done my Bible study, which I will put in the description under the Project U information, you know that Christ was not about beating down the women and the children. Christ was not about abusing women to hold up a chattel-based religious system. Christ was not with the manosphere. Did a study from John that covered all that, and I'll put that. The Summer Bible Study from 2023 covers all of this. 2022 or 2023, maybe 2022, but I'll put it in the description so you can find it. Because Jesus is not with it, I don't have to be with it either. Because see, what I do is I just throw people up against the divine masculine. You say you belong to Jesus Christ? Okay, if you won't listen to me and it's clear what I'm saying, and I'm not saying anything to hurt you, I'm going to slam you up against your big brother Christ and your father God. Because, women can't tell men what to do. Okay, I got a perfect man for you. Which also brings me to something else that goes with this as follows. I understand the situation that black men in the country are in because I've done my historical work to know that in the same way that black little girls are never allowed to be little girls and discover what they're about, black boys go through the same thing. I've taught for too long not to know this. They're living in a culture where they can never be allowed to be a man. And if their fathers are not there, and even if their father is there but has modeled himself after the oppressor, then that's the model that they're going to follow because we look up to oppressive men. When manosphere men talk about being 6 feet tall and having a six pack and 6 figures of money, I know they're talking about Thomas Jefferson and Monticello. When we overbaked version, because of the things he was able to do, be admired around the world, and have his way with Sally Hemings and abuse her for 36 years, and decide what was going to be done to their children, and hold that over her head. She was not freed until he died. Well, I should say free from him. We do not know how his children felt about, his white children felt about that. I don't have that information in front of me. But the point is, when they talk this talk, they're trying to be the oppressor, because that's the only model of man they have, unless another black man either returned to an understanding of what a man is supposed to be out of creation, which is a steward who makes things better around him. If he came that way in Christ, then Christ is not going to have the foolery, but at least you have a perfect male model. But if you don't have that, if you don't do either one of those two things, then they're going to fall into the trap in the same way black women are either going to fall into the trap of being Sally Hemings, which is the position that we're assigned, workers and breeders and sex slaves, or they're going to try to step up and be Mrs. Jefferson, who's going to be an oppressive woman. It doesn't happen often, but I've known a few. I've known a few black women like this. So I know that they are struggling horrifically. I got that. The qualification for being anywhere near me, though, is to be getting over that. And I know a lot of black men are trying, but then again, a lot of them are not. Let me give you some demographic information, okay? People are very upset thinking that 20% of black men voted for Donald Trump and therefore for Project 2025. No, that's not true. 20% of black men who voted, 30 to 33% of black men are convicted felons and cannot vote. So no. Only 67% of black men can vote. 2/3, 66, 67, it's 66.666, but just make it 70% just to make the numbers easy, okay? So we'll just make it 70% just to make the numbers easy, can vote, okay? So if 20% of them voted, that means 14% of black men, which is about in line of the last election for Donald Trump, 13 to 14%. But what does that also mean? I hope that those listening to me do not think that you should hand a convicted felon any part of your life. I know 50.9% of those that voted thought it was a good idea to hand over the entire country to a convicted felon, but I hope the rest of you have more sense than that to listen to me. If you don't have more sense than that, please do not let me know, because I'm going to block you. I'm just telling you straight up. But hopefully, those of you who have listened to me, who have been cultivated as part of my subscriber base, have more sense than that. So already 30% would mean that, okay, so you got 30% who are felons. And felons can be reformed, and they can become wonderful people. I'm in fellowship with some that Christ has done a wonderful work with. So yes, it does happen. But on average, recidivism is a thing for a reason, because they make it impossible. You don't have voting rights, you don't have rights to get a job, you don't have rights to get housing, and you couldn't get federal help before Project 2025 and Donald Trump coming back into office. You couldn't get it before that, so you certainly are not going to get it afterwards. So this leaves men with going on a long journey, and if they're going to go on a journey to become the man that they were called to be, they're going to need some help. The problem is they have been acculturated to be an oppressor, and the only people that can oppress is black women and children. So you take the 30% that has that acculturation and has acted on it, because you got to think, who do most of those felonies take place against? They're not going over the hill from me. They're not going to the Pacific Heights and doing those felonies. I guarantee you that they're not, on average. They're doing it to black men, women, and children that they think are weaker than themselves. And since black men know that they will kill each other, the numbers are up to 25 times a day. The easiest victims are black women and children. So you got to look at how they got the felonies. That's 30%. 30% plus the 20% of the 70% that voted for Project 2025 to be enacted. That's 44% of black men are not necessarily safe for black women and children, just by virtue of those two demographics. 44%, basically 1 in 2. Well, I didn't read Project 2025 because I didn't know that was safe. Well, that means you're not safe to lead me anywhere to safety from the machinations of Project 2025. We have a man in office who thinks I should not have civil rights or anything going on because I don't have any children. Never mind that I've spent my lifetime working with kids. Never mind that I have more business and asset investment than probably he will ever possess of his own accord in his entire life. That's no boast. That's reality. Never mind that I put more into this country than he has by virtue of that. I'm not a politician. I have 35 years of actually being in a community to help human beings survive. I look young for that, don't I? But it's the truth. But if you haven't bothered to read it and you don't know what it's about and you went on and voted for Donald Trump anyway, you're still not safe because you're ignorant of something that's going to destroy you and any woman and child that chooses to link themselves to you. And that's just a fact. 44%, 1 in 2 black men, approximately, are not safe for black women because it can't lead us to any better than what we have. And we're not. That does not mean that the 56% that are not A, felons who are unreformed, B, did not vote for this foolery that we have going on now, are safe. We just know that about 44, 45%, 46% aren't. Okay, we can know that for certain. Now about the 56% that remain, vetting is important. I spent a lot of the last several days, since, in the black community, 1 in 3 black people is a black man, of just kind of observing my interactions with them. And the ones that I interact with on the regular are wonderful. And even with them being wonderful, because they are in such a cultural gap, so much denial of their humanity, so much denial of their manhood, so much denial of necessary information that they need to make it and do really well in the information age, they too default to getting it all from black women. Only the most self-actualized ones are confident enough to not have to try to run home to mama. It's just like, you have a matriarchy because y'all have made it so. Who do not immediately show up hoping that I can solve their problems and basically be Jesus. Now, what I have learned to do is, since I do know who Jesus is, since men, like I said, talk about they can only learn from a man, I just put them back out on the standard of the divine masculine. This is an idea you can look at. This is what Jesus says you need to do. I'll pray for you, bro. This is something you might consider. We're just going to pray about it from here. Bye. Or, okay, you being contrary, you going into your patriarchy mode because that's what you learned. Okay, what does Jesus Christ have to say about it? It doesn't matter if you agree with me today. I'm turning you over to him. If you are unfortunate enough to be an unbeliever and try the foolishness, you're just going to get slid right out because you don't have anybody above you that you think you need to respect. Well, the fact that you're not going to be able to pick up this phone and get to me at all and have to solve your own problems will teach you what you won't learn from me nicely. That's how you have to deal with that. Because, again, they have been trained to the habits of dependency. And because they have been acculturated that black women are the only people that they can go and extract from, or, to be fair, the only people that they can go and get a compassionate human hearing from, but the burden can be overwhelming. So now you have to let people know there's a boundary. You have to vet them. You have to get boundaries, just like you do every other demographic. Even as a Christian, again, my job is to turn black men back to Psalm 138:8. It is best to trust in the Lord to put confidence in men. And that includes mankind. That includes me. You say you're a Christian? This is some ideas that you have. Go pray and enact. Go. The other thing about this is men will never have the confidence of being men as long as they can go get some woman to do something for them. They're going to continue to be sons. They're going to continue to be boys. And the cycle will continue. We have to release them. The men that I admire the most got released. The last black woman said, ain't gonna happen, bro. Bye. Some time ago. My father was actually snatched up by his brother who had his life together and was told everything he needed to know about how ridiculous he was and that Jesus Christ could give him a different life so he would not be a disgrace to everything around him. And I can say that because he's told the story many times. I'm not giving the details at the moment. It is time for black men to pick up black men. It's time for black men to pick up black boys and change the cycle. And if they're not going to do it, okay, but you don't get any benefits for not doing what you're supposed to do. And this also, even assuming the best of circumstances, the best of black men that I know are still quite dependent on the black women because, again, where else can they go for help? No one's capping for them in this society just as much as they're not capping. Well, in a different way. You do have the advantage of being in a society that values men over women, but it's not as big of an advantage for a black man as it is for every group of people that has a little bit more economics above. That said, it is very, very... Stephanie Perry said this. I don't know if you can center black men and black women at the same time. The needs of black men and the entitlement that they have as men in this society is too big to do both at the same time in many cases, which brings us back to You do not have to be a black man hater to get the most of Project U. I'm telling you, as someone who loves black men, is in a community with them, who has trained boys who become men that I'm proud of. Sometimes I need a break, and to be with women who bring to the table what we need to bring to the table so we can work together and get some things done and plan some things for ourselves and for our children, with or without black men in the picture. Because 44 to 46% are not safe to be in the picture. So where does that leave the rest of black women? I'm going to give you those numbers again. 30 to 33% are felons, and I'm hoping that you're not in the 50.9% of people who voted in this country who think being with felons is safe and turning your life over to them is safe. I hope you're in that group of people. And then another 13 to 14% voted for that felon to be in office. Combine those numbers, you get around 44 to 46% of black men are not safe for black women and children. That's not accounting for how the other 56% are acculturated in the exact same way to, unless their father, grandfather, uncle was a good man and stood in the gap, or they had a mentor, they are acculturated to look up to and model themselves after Thomas Jefferson. When you hear the manosphere talking that talk, they want to be 6'3", universally admired rapist, pedophile Jefferson. Or his cohort, George Washington. Or his cohort, not as tall, James Madison. That's who they're looking to be, because that's the models that they've had. And unless any man in the United States of America is purging himself from those models, he's not safe. We just happen to know, because of the felony numbers, that number is at least at 46%. I would make the case on another video that number is probably that high across men in America. 1 in 2 are not safe, at least 1 in 2. But that's a different video, and I don't have the demographics. I'm talking about us. You don't have to be a black man hater. You can love black men and still need some time to sit down with black women and talk and plan some things. And I am inviting you to come to Project U and learn how you're going to take care of your safety, your security, your strategy, and your self-care for you and your kids. And if there are men that get with the program, great. If there are men who are ready to face the challenges of Project 2025 and lead their families through this time period, hey, I have a dad like that. I can always go home and be like, Dad, how did you handle this during the Great Depression? How did your family handle this during Japanese internment? I have men like that I come from. Not everybody does. And even having that, I still have to know what I'm going to do for myself in a technological world my dad does not understand. However, I'm going to say this. My dad looked at my notes for Project 2025. Because he's not going to sit at the computer and read it. He can't do that anymore. But he read my notes. He said, okay, I need to talk to Pastor McNeil and make sure to get this to the preacher so the churches know about this. And yeah, baby, you go ahead and you do those shows, because no, this is serious. This is bad. No, we can't do it. No. He at least read my briefs. He was at least open enough to what a black woman had to say to at least read the briefs so that he could be ready to do what he can to make sure Mom is good and to be back up for me and Samantha, my sister. I require at least that. That's a minimum. And you need to require that. And what you're going to do till you find a man who meets the requirements is take care of yourself. And that's why you need to come through on Project U. February 28th to March 1st. I'm going to put the ticket link in there. There is a standard ticket for those of you that can attend live. There's a replay ticket for those of you who want to go to the conference and also have the replays. We will be setting up the replays for you to be able to purchase if you can't do either one. And also there's a Discord if you want to come in and get a taste of the kind of teaching that you're going to be getting on the areas of security, strategy, and self-care. I will be there speaking about crypto so that you can get involved with cyclical assets and understand how the rich get richer every year, and you can learn how to work these cycles as well. There are a lot of people out there we have coming that are going to help you with the technological things that go with living in the 20th century and thriving in spite of the felon in chief. And the 30% to 33% of felons that we have to live around because they are physically our brothers, some of our fathers and our sons. You can still thrive. And being able to work with those in the 56% of black men those in that group who are actually about something. All that is available to you because you're going to become the best you that you can be, and therefore be confident requiring that everyone around you, including any black men you allow in your life, are the best they can be as well. All right, enough. It's a gorgeous day, but it's still winter, and that wind is telling me you need to do your next video and move. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.